Hi guys, it's your girl MJ checking in for round 3 VLCD 19. Let's see, VLCD 17, which was the day after the party. Had a 1.6 release on the scale. VLCD 18 had a 1.3 gain, and today, this morning for 19, had a 1.6 release. So my weight is up and down, up and down. And like I'm walking every other day, and I've noticed a pattern that when I walk, the very next day I have a gain on the scale. I think it's going to be that way until I figure out how to adjust my calories because I'm still eating at 500 calories. I'm getting a little bit more protein, but not, too much. So, yeah, that's what's happening. Food wise, I'm staying away from sweet Italian sausage from Walmart. I made a mistake of picking it up because it looked really, really good. And I cooked that, I believe, Saturday. I had one for lunch, I had one for dinner. And I thought, it shouldn't hurt me. I've had salmon, on P2 before, and it's not affected my weight. Well, the sausages have 9 grams of fat. It was really, really good. And it was, oh my God, delish. But I'm staying away from those because that might have cost the gain on the scale. I don't know, but I'm trying any and everything to make sure that not, if I'm gonna gain, I'm gonna gain, but I don't want it to be because I cost it. Anywho, let's see, what else am I gonna talk about? You know how you guys are so incredible and you show your personalities on your vlogs, like Miss Freckles, her most recent vlog. Oh, it's so funny. One Night Stand with Cyrus. I love it. And also Donna Simo. Peggy Lynn. Yeah, hilarious. And you guys are showing the side of you that people really need to get to know. We're just trying to be real people here. So anyway, in case you haven't noticed, I am a nerd. I am a nerd, not just because I wear glasses, because I really am, and I'm proud of it. I am a high school English teacher by trade, and so, as you may well know, I love books. I love books. I love reading them. I love critiquing them. I love everything about books. I think they're so amazing. Anyway, so, I'm not gonna do a skit or anything because I'm not that. That's not who I am. But I am going to have one of my book talks, where I talk about a book or several books that I'm currently reading and how they're helping me on my HCG journey. And the reason I say that is whenever I'm on a round, I am incredibly emotional. And I think it's only because I don't have the luxury of numbing my boredom or whatever I'm going through with food. I'm left with dealing with my emotions, thinking my thoughts, and working through them and all of that. That it really, my emotions are like up and down, and I'm processing so many things, and I'm figuring all this out, and figuring myself out, making plans for the future, all of that. And I know that I cannot change my outside unless I change my inside, because the two is interrelated. So I'm allowing, I am sitting with sort of that up and down emotions, and I'm figuring all this out, and asking myself the question, like, why should I care about losing weight? Why this? Why now? And what ends up being revealed to me is this too, my weight. My weight is an awareness that I'm not willing to recognize. Like whenever my weight gets out of whack, my eating gets out of whack, and I'm not taking care of myself, it's because my emotions are out of whack. My thinking about the world and about life and about myself, is out of whack. So I know that in order for me to really live the life I want to live and be the person I want to be, I have to shed the unnecessary weight, figuratively speaking, of the negative thinking or the negative emotions I choose to sort of entertain. And the reason I say this is because recently, a really amazing person, who you may know as Is, in her most recent vlog, she showed up as herself, like incredibly vulnerable and real and honest. She's just has a lot going on in her life, and she couldn't help it. She couldn't help but be a little emotional, and I remember she kept stopping the video, and I just remember looking at that and looking at her like, God, that's so admirable. Like when people are able to show up, and be vulnerable and be real, I think that is a true sign of someone who's comfortable in their own skin. And I adore that. I admire people like that. I admire people who are willing to put themselves out there, even with the possibility of rejection. So, PrinsessDai As Is, whenever you get that way, you have nothing to apologize about. I think vulnerability is sexy. I think feeling your feelings is sexy. I think that's what will propel us to be really great people, if we're not already. So anyway, the reason I'm talking about vulnerability, and I'm connected to two books. You guys are probably familiar with her. Her name is Dr. Brene Brown, and I stumbled upon her 2 years ago, and within the last year, she just exploded. And if for those of you who are an Oprah fan, it's because she was one of the guests on Oprah for her Super Soul Sunday. But I've known about her actually before that. It's right around she had her TED Talk. And the very first book she wrote prior to the one Oprah interviewed her for is this. I don't know if you can read it. It says, "I thought it was me making the journey from what will people think to I am enough." In this book, she kind of talked about how people fear rejection. We are afraid of rejection. And I went, okay. And then we often think that this is who I need to be in order for people to accept me. This is who I need to be in order to function in this world. And always thinking that we are not enough, that we're the problem, that we're the ones who need fixing. And what she says in the book is we learn sort of feeling this not good enoughness from our parents, and from society and from teachers, from other adults. And really it's not their fault. It's that they too learn quite early on that love is conditional, and therefore we take that on. And remember that sort of I could relate to that. I could relate to feelings of not being good enough. Even though everything in my life says otherwise, there's always this part of me that's beating myself up. Like, oh, you're not perfect. You're not. I don't even use the word perfect because I'm so embarrassed. I know how flawed I am whenever I use the word perfect. But, yeah. So that's the first book of hers, and it's amazing. It's a must read. Let's see. And then she followed that with the most recent one, Daring Greatly. And in this book, she prefaced it by saying that she came across this quote by Theodore Roosevelt after she kind of was beat up out there. She was on TED Talks, and she was like seen everywhere. She was doing NPR, she was doing CNN, she was doing all these shows, right? And then suddenly she's reviewing like she's reading like reviews about her book and about her who she is, online, and there are like so many just like mean comments like, oh, she's fat, or a little less research, more Botox. Well, of course you would accept vulnerability, if you look like her. Like, typical of our society to dissect females based on their appearance as opposed to their work, right? I mean, that just aggravates me. So anyway, she came across this quote, and it says, "It is not the critic who counts, not the man who points out how the strong man stumbles or where the doer of deeds could have done them better. The credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly, who at the best knows in the end and the triumph of high achievement, and who at the worst, if he fails, at least fails while daring greatly." It is not the critics who counts. So what this tells me is it really isn't about like the people outside of what we're doing, outside of, I'm trying to process this, and I'm trying to kind of put it out there in words that would make sense to me and to you. What she's saying is, you know what? I'm not interested in hearing people's criticism of me and what I'm doing when they're not even in the same arena as me. I'm not interested in what you have to say about what I'm doing if you're not out there. If you're just like a bystander and you're not in the arena getting your butt kicked like me. And that just made me think, like, how many friends, how many family members, how many people around us who love us, who claim they support us, the minute we expose to them what we're doing, they go on quick criticism of, oh my God, I can't believe you're doing that, you're malnourished, what are you doing, that's so crazy, blah, blah, blah. And meanwhile, they're walking around 30, 40, 50 pounds overweight themselves, yet they're telling me how to do this. I'm like, I'm putting myself out there. I am putting myself out there. I am trying to fix this problem. And unless you're in the same arena as me, struggling, being raw, putting yourself out there, figuring out why you do what you do, working out, eating clean, unless you're, in the midst of the struggle. Like, I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear what you have to say as you're stuffing your face with bonbons and chocolate chip cookies. I'm sorry. Not interested. So, yeah. And in case you're interested, go into my favorites, and I think I've marked a couple of her talks as favorites. Anyway, recently she had a talk, I don't know how recent it is, but I just watched it. I've watched it, I think, like 3 or 4 times in the last like 3 or 4 days. And the title of it is, oh God, I can't even remember right top of my head there. Anyway, it's 1%, genius is 1% inspiration and 99% perspiration. And I remember reading that going, hello! It's not about the idea of losing the weight. It's about doing the work to lose the weight. It's not about, oh, I have this great grand idea how I'm going to love myself tomorrow, but yet unwilling to get sweaty and dirty and do the work. And I believe we are doing the work. We're doing the work. We are putting ourselves out there, and we are knee deep in the process. In the process, we're going to have ups and downs. In the process, we're going to stumble. In the process, we're going to get beaten up every now and again. But that's okay. That's part of the process. And as long as we're supporting each other, encouraging each other, and you know, and being there for one another. You know, I think this is really what this community is about.